All right, we're going to start giving you some of the things in the trial. Before, we haven't been able to talk, so specifically we have a bit more information. Right now, I have a couple of sisters that are going to hold a banner. I was going to have it here, but since you're so far away, they're going to hold it, and I'm going to try to talk to it, and they're going to explain on the banner what's going on. This is a timeline of the 5 years. Over those 5 years, the accuser said she was raped 3 times a week for 5 years, okay? That span that you see going across goes from 1999 to 2004. When you put the case on a visual like this, it becomes very obvious that this was a case not of rape, but a case of teenager and parents fighting. It got bigger and bigger, it escalated, and it finally got to something that was out of control as far as these charges go. But what I want to show you here is a couple other things that happened in the trial. Jeff Reisig puts in a newspaper, a press release, right after the trial. And in that press release, he talks about pornography, saying Ajay showed porn to a minor. Well, the part he forgot to say in the press release is that Ajay was found innocent of all that. In fact, last year after our rally, Jeff Reisig printed that again. So first off, I want to say he was innocent. The second part I want to show is the porn charges they charged Ajay are from 1999. I can't say the year, but my sisters will show you. They were for until she turned 18. The actual evidence, the forensic evidence that the district attorney's office put forward to show that he did this happened at the very end, not anywhere near the time frame the charges are. On top of that, the forensic evidence was pretty weak at the best. But the point that I want to show you first in the timeline is the charges are here, and the forensic evidence that they came forward is here. Now, our lawyer asked to sever these charges because they didn't make any sense. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. The reason they did this in the trial is not because they really believe this happened, but because they wanted to paint the picture of a really nasty guy. They wanted to say, this man is terrible, he has pornography, he does this, he does that, and they wanted to prejudice the jury. They spent 3 days doing that. All right, the other thing that Jeff Reisig tends to put in his press releases, or the district attorney's office, is that Ajay impregnated her 3 times. Again, he forgets to say, oh yeah, he wasn't found guilty for that. He just keeps putting in the paper to get everyone incited against Ajay and us that are here. The curious thing about the whole pregnancy issue, she claims she was raped for 5 years. The first 4 years, she never got pregnant. She said, she was asked, did he use contraceptive? Nope, rarely. But never got pregnant, although she was capable physically of getting pregnant. Now, the last year and a half, she's dating boys. She's, all of a sudden, she gets pregnant 3 times. So this doesn't really kind of make a lot of sense. And of course, her statement was, she was asked, have you ever had sex with any of these boys? Oh no, oh no. Of course, one of her boyfriends got on it and testified, oh yes, oh yes. So the point here is the pregnancy bit does make no sense. It shows that her story makes no sense at all. Another point I'd like to say is that if you look at the end of the timeline, she gets angry at Ajay on February 1st, 2004, because he has sent an email to her boyfriend asking that she follows Nepali culture values. He decides to break up with her that day, and the very next day she runs to the police and says, I've been raped 3 times a week since the time I got here. It was a total retaliation piece. And if you see the timeline, everything was fine for those 4 years. What happened that 5th year, or year and a half? She went to college, she started hanging out with boys. She started not coming home. She was doing poorly in school. She lost her job. She hung out with people that weren't the right kind of people. And things fell apart. Unfortunately, Ajay is the one who's having to deal with that right now. I do want to show you this. Some of you may not realize, but the accuser was convicted of perjury in Nepal. She was convicted of passport fraud. That sounds like it's great, you know, that it would have been nice if that would have been able to be brought into the case. These are all the papers that were stamped by everyone in the government in Nepal that needs to do it and attested to, and brought to the embassy in Washington, D.C. and stamped and attested to. And the prosecution kept it out because they didn't want people to know she'd already been convicted of perjury, even though she was perjuring herself, you know, doing perjury throughout the trial. All right, these are also at the table. Peggy, please come on up.
What has been revealed through constant reflection is that when we were having problems, our solution was you have to go back to Nepal to get in touch with your roots. She had a commitment to her family. We had aspirations, of what she should do in her life, and that was our way of solving that dilemma. Unfortunately, she went back in 2003 for 1 month. She saw her family. She wanted to come home early, even though we had originally wanted her to stay. And after she came back, we were hoping things would get better. They got worse. Many of you have heard this story. But when it finally broke down that this is not repairable, she sincerely believed, I believe, that we were going to send her back. And this is a way to stop that. It was a way to circumvent her having to be forced to go back, either through us or through her father, because Ajay constantly communicated to her father all the problems that was going on. It was also a way for her to cut completely every communication between her father and Ajay. Because Ajay always told her dad, this is what's going on, you gotta help her, you gotta bring her in. Several times in the last month before this that led up to this, he told her dad, you gotta have her come back to Nepal, you need to have her come back to Nepal. I think that was a real worry. Had these documents been able to come in, the motive would have become very clear. It was a real risk for her, because had we found out about the fraud with the adoption, she would have even lost immigration benefit.
The last thing I want to show you on the timeline is the way they decided to charge Ajay. Although the accuser said she was raped 3 times a week for 5 years, 30%, almost half the charges happened in the very first year. That's how they charge him. And you know why? Because she would have been under 16 at that point, and that means you get a longer sentence for every charge. That means you can have an extra charge because she's under that age. And they wanted to shock the jury. They wanted to say, this man is so bad, look what he did. All the other years, he was charged 1 rape every 3 months. They didn't even care about what her story was. They didn't even listen to what her story is. They just decided, we're going to stack them up here. But what I want to just show you right here, this is a binder of every email communication between the accused and Ajay Dev. Now, if he was raping her regularly, if there was sex happening regularly, it would show up somewhere. Nobody expects their emails, every single one of their emails, to be read. We brought them here to you tonight. They will be at this table over here. If you want to look through them and see, there is not one single indicator that anything sexual was going on between the two. It was a father and daughter relationship only. But this is one of the things that convinced people, because they couldn't find anything at all. All right, people, the last thing I want to say is, people say, why do you do this? Why do you come forward? People in the newspapers, bloggers have said that, and there's 3 reasons. The first reason is people who are exonerated with this kind of sentence usually are exonerated with the DNA evidence. There's no DNA evidence because there was no crime. The only other people that are exonerated with these number of years are exonerated because people like you and me come out and demand justice. Those are the only people usually who can get through this system. So that's one of the reasons we do it. The other reason is because the other side, and probably tomorrow, I don't know, prints all this awful garbage about the trial. It's not true. Not even to the point of what he was found convicted is true. And we need to keep that in the forefront. The last reason we're doing this, there are people out there who know information that can help overturn this conviction. The accuser knows the story. We would love for her to come forward and come talk to our appellate attorney. The accuser has boyfriends who know different pieces that could help us overturn this case. She has close girlfriends. We want to be on television, in the papers, saying, please do what's right. He's been there for 3 years. He cannot touch his children. He's a good man. Please come forward. I know you don't want to talk to us personally, and we would rather have you go straight to the appellate lawyer. You can go to the 3rd Appellate District website. You can pull up Ajay's case, and her information is there. If you want to contact us anonymously, we can help you that way. But that's one of the reasons we do this, so that some of those people who have been afraid to come forward, but who know in their gut that they've just seen something terrible, to come and fix this.